Welcome to Sportpen. Today we're strapping on our skates and diving headfirst into the electrifying saga of the 2020-21 Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, what a season that was.
Right, this wasn't just a season, it was really a testament to relentless determination, wasn't it? Some game-changing performances that turned this team into something, well, truly legendary.
Absolutely. Legendary is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Even without the final win.
Exactly. We're going to dissect those pivotal moments, not just, the scores, but the underlying shifts that fueled this improbable run.
Yeah. There's a lot going on beneath the surface.
Forget simply recounting the games. We're here to explore what ignites that spark of greatness and how this Canadian squad etched their chapter into sports history.
It's a fascinating case study, and you have to start with the context, right? The 2020-21 season, it was completely unique because of COVID.
Totally unique.
That temporary realignment, putting all 7 Canadian teams into one North Division, that created this intense pressure cooker right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Playing those same 6 opponents night after night, it built up a level of familiarity and, frankly, rivalry that was just almost unprecedented.
Like a condensed, hyper-competitive Canadian league.
Exactly. Before the traditional playoffs even began, and then keeping that intra-divisional format for the first 2 rounds, it just amplified all those existing tensions.
It really did feel like a battle royale for Canadian bragging rights.
Yeah, it did. And potential cross-border travel wasn't even on the table until maybe the 3rd round, though, Montreal eventually got that travel exemption.
Right, which became crucial later. And speaking of battling, their road to the playoffs wasn't exactly smooth sailing, was it?
Not at all.
Clinching their spot on May 10th after an overtime loss to the Oilers. Talk about cutting it close.
Yeah, backing in slightly.
Finishing 4th in that North Division set the stage for a first-round matchup that had, well, the whole hockey world buzzing. Montreal versus Toronto.
The big one.
The latest chapter in the NHL's oldest rivalry, their first playoff meeting in, over 40 years? Since 79.
That's right. A long, long time. And looking at the regular season, the results heavily favored the Leafs. They won the series 7-1.
So pretty much nobody expected what came next.
No one. Toronto, as the top seed, they dominated those regular season games. And when they took that 3-1 series lead,
yeah,
including finally breaking that long postseason win drought against Montreal in Game 2, their first since the 67 finals, it felt like, okay, history is repeating itself here.
The narrative seemed written.
It did.
Yeah.
But this is where the real story begins. Montreal didn't just roll over. They dug in. They showed that mental fortitude that you absolutely need if you have any championship aspirations.
To win 3 straight elimination games against your biggest rival.
Yeah. And 2 of those going to overtime, that's not luck. That's pure will. That's belief.
It was pure edge-of-your-seat drama. And Carey Price in that series. My goodness.
He wasn't just good. He was transformative.
A force field. Austin Matthews, the league's leading goal scorer that year, basically shut down 1 goal.
1 goal, despite, 37 scoring chances? Something like that. His shooting percentage just plummeted compared to the regular season.
And Mitch Marner, another huge part of Toronto's offense, held to just 4 assists. It really felt like Price was just living in their heads.
It certainly looked that way. Beyond just the saves, the sheer number of saves, there was a clear psychological impact. You could almost see the hesitation creep into Toronto shooters, maybe aiming a bit too fine, second-guessing shots they'd normally bury. His positioning, his calmness, his ability to read those cross-ice plays that Toronto loves, it shut down their creativity.
That clusterclass.
It really was. Not just great goaltending, but controlling the whole flow from his crease.
Okay, so they vanquished their arch-nemesis in dramatic fashion. What happens next? A second-round clash with the Winnipeg Jets.
And this series was a completely different story.
Yeah, a 4-game sweep for the Canadiens.
It's just dominant. Clinical, almost. To shut down a pretty dangerous Winnipeg team in 4 straight, including another Price shutout in Game 2, that speaks volumes about their focus.
And their ability to just capitalize, right?
Exactly. They showed a real killer instinct. What was impressive, too, was they won Game 1, even with Mark Scheifele, a huge threat for the Jets, still in the lineup before his suspension kicked in.
Right, that suspension was a big factor later, but they took care of business early.
They did. And remember, they were doing all this without Jonathan Drouin for a big chunk of the playoffs, too. Their depth really had to step up.
Good point. So through 2 rounds, 2 very different series wins. Then came the Stanley Cup semifinals against the Vegas Golden Knights.
The third round, and this one had that extra layer of intrigue, didn't it, with Nick Suzuki?
Yeah, the guy Vegas traded to Montreal on that Max Pacioretty deal.
Exactly. And as the lowest seed left, Montreal was, once again, the clear underdog against a very strong Vegas team.
But they did it again. Pulled off another upset, took down Vegas in 6 games.
Punched their ticket to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since 1993.
Incredible. The energy in Montreal must have just been off the chart.
Oh, you can only imagine. It was an amazing achievement, and it ended that 10-year drought for Canadian teams making the finals. The Canucks were the last in 2011.
Right. And Suzuki's emergence during that run, I mean, especially playing so well against his former team, that was a fantastic storyline.
It really was. He was solidifying himself as a core piece for Montreal.
Right.
Not just scoring, but his defensive game improved noticeably throughout those playoffs.
Yeah, you could see him maturing into a two-way threat. That later vote as the organization's top under-25 player.
Yeah.
Totally earned.
No question.
And then the ultimate stage, the Stanley Cup Finals against the defending champs, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
The final boss, basically. A huge challenge.
And, well, it didn't start well. Montreal lost the first 3 games. Things looked pretty bleak.
They did. But, true to form for that run, they didn't quit. They fought back, won Game 4 at home, gave the Bell Center faithful one more victory to cheer about.
Kept hope alive, however briefly.
Exactly. That Game 4 win showed their resilience again. But, looking back at Game 2, I think that game really highlights how fine the margins are at that level.
How so?
Well, Montreal significantly outshot Tampa Bay through the first 2 periods. They were carrying the play for long stretches.
Right, I remember that.
Yet they go into the second intermission down 2-1. Tampa gets that kind of killer instinct goal, a buzzer beater right at the end of the second. Soul-crushing.
Yeah. Those hurt.
And then a costly turnover, an errant pass late in the third, leads directly to the empty netter that seals it 3-1 for Tampa. Those small moments, those mistakes,
Yeah.
they get magnified in the finals.
Absolutely. Tampa's experience, their depth, their star power, it just proved too much in the end. Montreal fell in 5 games.
Yeah, they were defeated, but definitely not disgraced.
No, not at all. And even though they didn't hoist the cup, that playoff run was just undeniably captivating. We talked about Price and Suzuki, but you also saw the emergence of Cole Caulfield. Right?
Oh yeah, huge spark.
His offensive dynamism, especially coming in late and having an impact against Toronto, that provided a real boost.
Absolutely. Kid looked fearless. And it wasn't just about individual brilliance, was it? You mentioned it earlier. There seemed to be a real shift in the team's collective mindset, the culture.
It felt different.
Yeah. Players like Josh Anderson were constantly highlighted as sort of embodying that. Guys playing through pretty significant pain, setting a tone, that relentless commitment.
Culture drivers.
Exactly. And while Martin St. Louis wasn't the coach then, you could see the foundations for that kind of resilient mentality being laid. Overcoming that 3-1 deficit against Toronto, that's not just X's and O's. That's powerful collective will.
A group truly buying in.
Completely.
It really did conjure up memories of that 93 championship team for a lot of fans, didn't it?
The parallels were definitely there. People were drawing them constantly.
Exceptional goaltending.
Check. Price was phenomenal.
A knack for winning those nail-biting overtime games.
Check. They won multiple OT games, including crucial ones against Toronto.
A defense that could lock things down when needed.
Yep. Steady defense.
And an offense that maybe not star-studded across the board, but found timely contributions from different guys.
A well-rounded offense, absolutely. The comparisons felt pretty apt.
And it wasn't just like smoke and mirrors or riding a hot goalie entirely, was it? If you look at their underlying numbers, especially, say, their 5-on-5 play.
Right, the even strengths metrics.
Which, for listeners, that's when both teams have 5 skaters each, giving a clear picture of play without power plays skewing things. Montreal was actually a pretty strong team by those measures in the seasons leading up.
They were. Their regular season standings didn't always reflect it, maybe due to special teams or finishing issues, but their ability to control play at 5-on-5 and stifle opponent chances was often quite good.
So the potential was there.
The potential was there. And the strategic acquisitions made during that season, you can't overlook those. Mark Bergevin bringing in players like Josh Anderson, that was a huge move before the season even started.
Right, the Domi trade.
Then adding Eric Stahl, John Merrill, Eric Gustafsson near the deadline. These weren't just minor tweaks. They were targeted moves to add specific elements, size, experience, depth, that proved crucial for that long playoff run.
Shaped the roster perfectly for what they needed.
It really seemed to.
And the impact, wow, it just reverberated far beyond the Bell Center ice, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
In the middle of a global pandemic with lockdowns and uncertainty, this playoff journey provided such a massive lift for the city of Montreal, for the whole province, really.
It gave people something positive to rally around, something exciting to focus on during a really difficult time. Sports can do that.
It really can. People were united, sharing that excitement, that pride. It's a powerful reminder of how sports can transcend just being entertainment. It becomes this vital source of community, of inspiration.
Especially in a city like Montreal, with its deep, passionate hockey history. The Canadiens faithful just amplified every single moment.
You could feel it even through the TV screen.
You really could. For a city with such a rich connection to that team's legacy, that run was it was a needed injection of collective joy. It created new memories while kind of echoing those past glories.
Showed how deeply intertwined a team's journey can become with the emotional fabric of its city.
Well said, yeah.
So, as we reflect on this truly remarkable season, this improbable run, it leaves you pondering, doesn't it? What truly fuels such a potent collective force within a team?
It's the million-dollar question in sports, isn't it?
How do all these individual talents, these different personalities, how do they coalesce to achieve something so much greater than just the sum of their parts?
The chemistry, the belief, the coaching, the luck. It's a complex mix.
And how do certain seasons, like this one, regardless of the ultimate outcome, manage to transcend mere competition? How do they become this enduring part of a team's identity and a city's legend?
Yeah, some seasons just stick with you. They tell a bigger story.
The 2020-21 Montreal Canadiens season certainly offers a compelling, really captivating case study in the unpredictable, sometimes illogical, but always fascinating magic of sports.
Couldn't agree more. A run for the ages.
Thanks for listening to Sportpen.